Welcome back to Indiana Story. I'm Craig Hall. Today we are in Centerville, Indiana, and joining me today is Chris. Chris, tell everybody where we are.
We are here at the Centerville Center Township Public Library here in Centerville, Indiana, but it was not always the library here in Centerville.
That's right, and that's why we're here today, folks. Not only is it a gym right here on US 40, the Main Street of America, but on this Main Street in Centerville, this, what was it before it was the library?
It was the sheriff's house and jail.
Which doesn't seem too crazy of a story. An old building gets turned into a library, but this building has a very, very unique history. Let's go take a look.
Let's have a look.
All right, Chris, we've come to the front of the building. Very, very, very important, very historical part of the building. Can you tell us why?
Well, right here you can see the dedication stone up there. This building was built in 1867 as a part of Centerville's attempt to keep the county seat right here in Centerville. But as times went along, Richmond grew much bigger than Centerville, and the petition was made to move the county seat to Centerville. As the people from Richmond came and collected the county records to move to Centerville, the people of Centerville, of course, put up a protest and resisted that.
So you're saying they were going to move the county seat from right here to Richmond, that is what, how many miles away?
Richmond is about 5 miles to the east, perhaps further.
So it was a booming city at the time, and they decided.
It was a booming city because of the railroads that passed through Richmond, and so Richmond grew much faster than Centerville did, yes.
And so they decided we should be the county seat, not Centerville.
Exactly. And there was actually even an effort by the people of Cambridge City to vote to move the county seat because they thought they had a chance to be the county seat.
So it's quite a battle going on to be the county seat. Now, what year was that?
This is 1873, when the when the vote went, and to make Richmond the county seat. Wayne Township actually had more votes than the rest of the county did. So they, of course, just by themselves outvoted the entire county.
Okay, now as interesting as all this sounds, which it is, this is all part of the history, there's another tidbit of this that is really, really the reason we're here. And so what happened, Chris? They didn't want to give up the county seat here in Centerville, so they fought to hold on to it.
They fought to hold on to it, definitely did. As the Richmond people came to move the county records, they were stopped by the Centerville people. So they put them into the sheriff's house and jail for safekeeping. Well, then they brought the guards 2 days later.
So Richmond brought guards.
Richmond brought guards with their people 2 days later to make sure that the county records got out of Centerville over to Richmond.
So they were just trying to move all of the files, all the records to the new county seat office that they'd built, and Centerville wasn't happy.
Centerville definitely was not happy. They surrounded this building. And they brought out over across the street in the Beaconsstows Archway, they brought out the town's saluting cannon that was fired every 4th of July for celebrations, and they loaded it with scrap iron, l'orange as it's called, and they fired it at the doorway because the Richmond folks were locked in there, of course.
So the Centerville folks, this is it, everybody. They took their very own cannon and shot it at their own building.
Yes, at their own building. You can see up here the damage done from the cannon shot.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Never been repaired. You can see also up here where some of the damage is done around there. But the large hole, of course, is the most prominent one. Um, if when we walk up here, we can see where doors used to be, and I do believe those are the doors that were blown away by the cannon shot.
Let's go take a look. All right, so we've come inside through the doors and back to the story. So on this side, you had all the folks from Richmond who were trying to move the county records. On the other side, in the archway, you have the residents of Centerville with a cannon. They've fired it at the door. What happened?
Well, at that point, we believe that most of the Richmond people fled. Out the back here, what is now the library's addition, it was where the jail used to be. And they must have found a way out through there. If we come around here, we can kind of see that as they've modified the building, there was apparently over here a doorway.
I see. So you're thinking this was the escape route?
I do believe most of them probably got away through that. And it wasn't until 2 days later when the Richmond folks brought the National Guard with them were they able to evacuate the records to Richmond.
So it was 2 days after the cannon fired. They shoot the cannon. The Richmond folks leave. Centerville takes over this building again. 2 days later,
The National Guard comes and nobody's resisting the National Guard.
so the military shows up. I see.
Yes. So yeah.
They cleared it out.
Yes, they did. They cleared it out. And at that point, the transition was successful. After that point, of course, Centerville loses the county seat. So many of the professionals and the businessmen and the manufacturers also move away to Richmond. And I have a nice memento to show you.
What's that?
As all of the business moved away from Centerville and the activity of Centerville quieted down, we have a photo here around the turn of the century of the town of Centerville being so quiet that a dog naps in the middle of the street.
This was once it was no longer the county seat.
Once it was no longer the county seat.
Did you see a great reduction in population, or?
Population pretty much remained steady. We were probably about 1,500 around the time of the Civil War. We're about a little over 2,000 now. So I'd say the population pretty much remained on a slow growth. It's taken us about 130 years to get about 500 more people.
So that was the end of the story then? Centerville didn't rise up again and try and take it back?
Yes, we did.
Aha. All right, Chris, we've come into this other part of the library here. Now, you say that this was what?
This is the new edition of the library right now. Was built in 1999, but it was originally where the county jail stood. And as a part of taking the records and the county seat to Richmond, they dismantled the jail that stood here and hauled it off to Richmond.
Oh, they took the entire building.
Well, the jail part of the building, of course, naturally, they left the sheriff's residence here, which after the sheriff no longer needed to reside here was sold off as a private residence, which it was until 1924 when it became the Masonic Lodge.
I see. So was the jail, why do you think they took the jail with them?
It was a newly built building. The jail was part of an expansion that they built on this in an effort to keep the county seat here in Centerville. So with the taxpayers buying this new jail here, they didn't want to see it go to waste. So they broke it down and hauled it off to Richmond.
So you have a memento still from the jail. What is that?
We do. Our state senator a few years ago gave us the jail key.
So this is one of the original keys from when it stood right here in Centerville.
Mm-hmm.
How long was this key used on the jail? Many years longer, I guess.
Yes, I'm presuming because it said it was in the possession of Byron C. Robbins, 1881 to 1973.
1973. Did they retire that jail then?
I can't tell you.
See, because we're talking Richmond history now. This is Centerville, right?
Yeah.
It's all right.
When they rebuilt that jail, I don't know. Over in Richmond, I never had an opportunity to stay in it.
Okay, Chris, you were telling me that there's been some more incidents in this town in the history, and even in relation to the cannon and the folks. Tell me what's going on here.
Well, this is during 1863, about halfway through the Civil War. Of course, the war's half over, but they don't know it's half over. All they know is we've got a long, bloody war. There's a lot of Americans that are against this war. Why should Americans fight Americans? Also, during this time, the town of Abington, just to the south of us, was a very pro-Democrat place. We know that Governor Morton was a Republican and Lincoln was a Republican. And so around the town, a lot of Democrats are suspected as being treasonous. And so Abington residents are given a hard time because they're known to be Democrats. And so at some point in 1863, the residents of Abington, I guess, had just had enough of the bullying here in Centerville. So they packed up on their horses and the wagon, and they came to town. And once they got to town, and they raised a bit of a ruckus, they stopped in at a local tavern, just east of Main Street, and they stopped to have a beer. But the tavern owner said that he was a good Union man, and he was not going to let a bunch of rebels drink in his tavern. So they had to drink the beer on the street.
So he sold them the beer.
As far as I know, they probably got the beer for free just because they were a rowdy crowd. But the telegraph office sent off the telegraphs in a panic to Indianapolis and all the other local communities saying that the town was being invaded by a bunch of butternuts, which was a slang term they used for rebel sympathizers.
Butternuts?
Butternuts, from the butternut tree. At that point, a posse was sent from Richmond down the railroad tracks to Centerville. And by the time the posse had arrived, most of the Abington folks had gone home. But they did capture one guy who was still drinking his beer. So the town folks of Centerville went and rounded up all the known Democrats and brought them over to the courthouse and made them swear allegiance to the country. And then a posse was mounted to go down to Abington and arrest any of the known people who had came to Centerville that day. 19 folks were arrested between Centerville and Abington. And those folks were shipped off to Indianapolis as traitors or suspected traitors. It was Alfred Lashley, the man who was responsible for firing the cannon 10 years later, when the people of Richmond came for the courthouse records. He was the man who went to Indianapolis to plead with Governor Morton at the time. Governor Morton was from Centerville. Plead with Governor Morton to release the 19 men arrested for raiding Centerville.
What did the governor do?
The governor released them, all except for one man who was suspected of being a deserter. He was actually sent home wounded from the Union Army, and they found out he hadn't actually deserted. He was convalescing. So eventually he was let go too.
So the posse wiped out the uprising of the Abington rebels here in Centerville and
Came to town to actually just drink beer.
came to town to drink beer. And you can still do that here, right?
Yes, you can.
So I hear that wasn't quite the end of the saga. There's another chapter to this story between Richmond and Centerville. What is that?
Yes, there is. The year 2014, for Centerville's bicentennial, Richmond was challenged to a friendly game of cornhole. And Centerville won that game of cornhole and captured back the county courthouse, which is now here in Centerville.
So you not only got the courthouse back, but you got a new one.
Yes, we did.
So I'm not seeing any cannon damage on this one. So you guys are you're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, no cannonballs were fired during the game of cornhole.
Truly an amazing story. So, folks, what was once the sheriff's station, the jail, now the library, was also the site of a battle with a cannon between Centerville and Richmond right here in Indiana. Truly, truly part of Indiana's story. Chris, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you for coming to Centerville, Craig.
So, folks, Centerville, Indiana, right here on US 40, Main Street of America. Make sure you stop by.